Hey everyone, I'm What's Up with the new Paradox launcher, and today we're going to be playing some Hearts of Iron 4. So we're going to be starting a new series of Hearts of Iron 4 today, so if you missed our last series, we played as the Netherlands and we were able to take out the UK and France and form a new Dutch Empire, so feel free to go check that out. Today, however, we're going to be going ahead and reforming the Ottoman Empire. Now, if you don't know much about the Ottoman Empire, there's actually a museum to the Ottoman Empire in every single one of your local IKEA stores. However, if you don't want to have to go down to your local IKEA, then you can just watch this video instead and I'll fill you in. Now, in our last series, I didn't put Iron Mode on because I was worried it would crash and it was my first playthrough. However, I didn't get any crashes, so I'm going to go ahead and put Iron Man Mode on today, and we're going to stick with AI focuses on as well. So to reform the Ottoman Empire, we're going to have to go ahead and play as Turkey in order to take back all of the lands that were formerly part of the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire was actually a very powerful empire at one point in time and was around up until World War I. They decided to join the Central Powers in World War I, which was mainly Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And when they lost World War I, the Ottoman Empire was then divided up by mainly Britain and France. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to take back all of this land over here, and we're going to want to also, while we're at it, conquer the Middle East. The goal I'm setting for this video is to become the biggest oil exporter in the game. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and merge all of our armies together. We don't actually have a field marshal, so that's a good start. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to promote one of these guys once we get the opportunity. Although, it might be worth just promoting a low-level general, I'm not sure. We're going to go ahead and disband all of our mountain units. Our research is going to start off pretty basic, we're just going to do the normal industry techs. We are going to need to militarize very early on in this game, however we are going to need some civilian factories, so I'm just going to go ahead and build 4 civilian factories for now. Now we're going to be wanting to conquer countries as soon as possible, so we're going to want to switch political ideologies, so we're going to start with political effort, we'll get a convoy on the go as well, and that's basically everything for the start. So what we're going to want to do from the get-go is we're going to want to switch to a different ideology and then invade Iraq right from the get-go. Now, we actually start significantly stronger than Iraq. We got 4 times the military factories and 5 times the civilian factories, and we have more divisions as well. But Iraq and Iran are very difficult countries to invade purely because of the terrain. It's mountainous, it's desert, it's just a massive pain in the ass to take. Not to mention the fact that you get minus 40% attrition. And coming from here, the supply is not going to be very high. We've got free infrastructure here, so we're not going to be able to get a huge amount of supply up into these mountains in the first place. So it makes pushing into them kind of difficult sometimes. So to circumnavigate that, we're going to use a plan B. What is that plan B, you might ask? Well, in this game, we're going to focus on being the dominant player in the skies. We're not going to so much worry about our navy, although we do have the resources to build a powerful navy. We're not going to so much worry about that because we're not going to have overseas colonies that we need to defend. We're just going to have things connected to our land. So instead of focusing on a navy or anything like that, we're mainly going to focus on having very good paratroopers and very good planes, so we can hold the skies and we can deploy behind enemy lines. So the plan is instead of being able to beat Iraq in a 1-to-1 push, because as you can see, we've only got 3 tiles here we can push into. I'm not even sure if you can push from here to here. What we're going to do is we're going to push in and pin their entire line here, drop behind them, and encircle their entire army. That's if everything goes according to plan. If it doesn't, we're just going to shoot 10 to 20,000 men over the border, and they're all going to die, and I might throw an Ottoman against a wall. I'm not sure yet, we'll find out. Unfortunately, we don't have any advisors to improve our special forces, but what we do have is a bombing genius and an armor expert. So maybe focusing on armor at one point or another would be a good idea, but we'll definitely focus on getting a nice bombing force up as well, because if we're going to control the skies, we might as well bomb them as well. So that's really going to help us. So because we're playing as Turkey, we actually have the base focus tree. So in case you're not aware, I'm going to go ahead and explain the focus tree for you because it's actually rather complicated, and if you look at the wiki, it's just very confusing. So effectively, Army, Air Force, Navy, Industry, Political Affiliation. And after that incredibly complex breakdown of the base focus tree, we've almost completed our first focus. So we're going to start working on collective ethos. And we need to pick our first political advisor. So normally at this point I would pick a silent workhorse to get some of that extra political power. But we don't seem to have very many good advisors. The only thing we have available to us is the ideology changes, and then and then a war industrialist, a captain of industry, and an ideological crusader. So with those advisors, we should probably pick our political changer first. So it's at this point we need to decide what ideology we're going to play as. Now, personally, I think we should pick an ideology that really reflects the Ottoman Empire. And I don't think a blue is a very good colour for an Ottoman, nor do I think red's a particularly good one either, unless you really want to commit to the look. Now, I suppose grey does fit the look a little bit better, but personally, I think a nice, bold brown is really going to suit us, is really going to resemble what the Ottoman Empire is all about. So we're going to have to go fascist. So it's at this point I've got a difficult choice to make. We can either use this political power we have now to work on our improved working conditions, or we can save up and flip to free trade. Now the reason this is a difficult choice is because at the moment you've got 67% stability, but we're going to be spending most of the early game at war in different offensive wars. So we're going to spend, so if we don't improve our stability now, we're going to spend most of the early game with 37% stability, and that's not great. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to save up for free trade, but improved working conditions is definitely going to be up there on the list of things to get. It's time to get to work on some of that nationalism. We're going to start working on researching paratroopers right now because we want to have enough time to not only build them, but we want to be able to train them as well. And playing as Turkey, we're also really going to suffer with army experience. So the more time we have to edit their templates and train them, the better. Okay, it's time to step up to free trade. As Turkey early game, it really doesn't matter going up to free trade. There's really no reason not to, because the only resources you have is a tiny bit of steel and a lot of chromium. And you're not going to need that chromium unless you start working on tanks, which you're not going to do early game. So there's really no reason to not step up to free trade playing as Turkey early game. So at this point in the game, I'd probably normally start going for militarism. However, playing as Turkey, you've got a population of 14.5 million. That's actually enough to really not need to worry about manpower early on. And you also start on limited conscription as well, so that's not that bad. So instead of going for militarism, instead what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the industrial focus and going straight for armament effort, so we can use those factories against Iraq, and that's really going to help us because Iraq will rapidly militarize once you declare war on them, and if you're not careful, they'll take these focuses as well, and the factories between you will even out. So I think playing as Turkey, it's really important to get these as soon as possible. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start researching support equipment because we're going to want to start building that as soon as possible. And we're also going to want motorized. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the extra military factory. I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to put 100 points into improved working conditions because long term that's going to give us additional output, additional political power, and better consumer goods. So we're going to put 100 into that. Now we could research better fighters, but before we take Iraq, we're going to be so limited for military factories that I'd rather have 200 crappy interwar fighters up there than, 200 Hurricanes. So we're actually going to leave this for the time being. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start rushing the next industry tech. Okay, so we've researched support equipment, so we can go ahead and start researching, so we can go ahead and start producing some of that. Now, like I said earlier, we're actually really limited on our military factories. So I don't think there's a lot of point researching maintenance or engineering because we just don't have the production to produce the equipment required for it. However, recon's really good because it only requires 10 support equipment, which makes it relatively cheap for the bonuses it provides us. So we are going to want to add those to our divisions. Okay, so we've now got 5 factories, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a bit of steel from France just to help our production. We've got 1 on everything, which isn't great, but it will mean we're able to field all the troops we need. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go for the second military factory. The threat of communism has given us an extra 10% fascism, which has really helped us along, so that's pretty good. And we're now 42% on our way to switching over. We've started training our first set of paratroopers, which is great, so we can start getting those into position. So like I said, we are going to really struggle for army experience, so I think it might be worth to get a military theorist as soon as possible. I was kind of hoping that our training would be enough to initially help us out, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, so I might have to get this guy as soon as possible. Are these new? I don't remember seeing these before. These must be new. What the fuck? What are these? Amphibious mechanized trucks. Huh. So I guess they're mechanized that help with naval landings. Did these exist in real life? I guess there must be some basis for it, or they wouldn't have put it in. Okay, well, I wasn't expecting that feature to come in. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so it's time to get our third load of rearmament, and we're going to start focusing on our improved machine tools. So I'm not sure what the Soviet Union's up to, but we just got a second load of communism threats. So we've actually gone up by another 10% of fascism, which puts us on 49%. So it's at this point that you would realistically hold your referendum and switch over to fascism. However, I never opened up political discourse, and the reason for that is because political discourse costs you 75. However, if you wait until you get 60% fascism, then you get the referendum anyway. So you save 75 political power, and it only costs you a little bit of time. Oh, okay, and that communism just kicked in, so it actually put us over 64 straight away. So we actually got lucky there. We didn't waste any time, and we can hold the referendum straight away without opening up political discord, which saved us a little bit of political power. Okay, we've taken another little bit of a stability hit, but we did improve working conditions, so our stability isn't too bad at the moment. So the first thing we're going to want to do is start focusing on justifying for Iraq, and then at the same time, depending on how much we want to push our luck, we want to justify for Saudi Arabia as well, because Saudi Arabia is pretty weak, so we shouldn't struggle to take them out once we've taken out Iraq. The only thing is you don't want to boost world tension too much, and there is the risk that one of the British or the French will guarantee them. But realistically, because they are non-aligned, you should get away with it. Normally the world tension has to be pretty high for them to guarantee one of these guys. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start justifying on Iraq. I might have to delete some of our current divisions, because at the moment we're not going to be able to get all of our units down, and I haven't even expanded our template yet. That shouldn't be too much of an issue though, because at the moment Iraq only has 3 divisions, so maybe we'll be alright. Normally what happens is as soon as you declare war on them, they just pump out a bunch of new divisions, and it doesn't matter how good they are, because of the terrain. It can be very hard to push in if they have entrenchment and you don't have a decent air force, which is one of the reasons why I'm focused on a decent air force. But even with that, I'm not going to have a lot of close air support or any bombers. We're going to go ahead and step up from civilian economy all the way to war economy. That's always nice. And with that, our industry has been significantly improved. We're still really struggling for infantry equipment. I think what I'll have to do is just, if we're really, really short, just change some of the units to... I mean, we could try a cavalry division. These guys need 9,600 guns. These guys need 900, but I haven't stepped it up yet. Might just have to delete them. We've improved our infrastructure, so we're now going to go ahead and get the additional 2 civilian factories. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and deploy all of our paratroopers early. We're short on equipment, so we're going to have to train them all anyway. We'll put you in your own little separate army. We could give you desert or reconnaissance. I'm going to give them the reconnaissance guy, because I think that's really going to help someone when they're stuck. I think that's going to help them more. And we can give them guerrilla fighter as well. We'll just tell you to hold here for the time being. Okay, and I think we'll promote our Desert Fox to our Field Marshal. And he's kept his Desert Fox trait, that's good. So now because we're going to be fighting mainly in the deserts, having a Field Marshal that has a Desert Fox trait is pretty good. And we can give him some new doctrines as well. We're going to be attacking quite a lot, so I think we'll give him the offensive doctrine. And I think reinforce rate is better than recovery, so we'll go for that as well. Okay, we're going to start playing around with our divisions as well. I need my paratroopers to be really good divisions, so we're going to give them recon and artillery. Unfortunately, I can't give them any additional paratroopers, because we need 8, and that's the maximum we can have. So we're just going to have to let them. So we're just going to have to keep them on free for now, which does make them weak. But I mean, it's the risk it's the risk you have with paratroopers. Okay, so I don't have enough XP to get everything here. So what I'll do instead is I'll just put artillery on you for now. Okay, and then hopefully we'll get enough training experience to finish our templates before we go to war with Iraq. Okay, so it actually looks like I just lost a little bit of footage there, so you missed the initial attack. But what we did is we set up all of our paratroopers to go over the border, and then we had our main army here just push into their army as much as possible. They're just aggressively pushing in, bashing themselves against a wall, even in this province where they're actually losing. And then we sent one paratrooper over to each tile. So now what they've done is they've completely surrounded and completely cut off the enemy. So yeah, you can see they've got 0 supply. We've got 1. So we're actually low on supply as well. But that doesn't matter because we're only going to hold it long enough that we can kill these guys. And then once these guys are gone, we'll be fine. I'm not going to push onto Baghdad yet because I would imagine they've got 1 or 2 divisions here. And it's more important just to hold this. So we're just going to give these guys some new orders. So I need you to hold here. You to hold here. You're actually about to retreat. So you come here and replace him. You stay here. You come here, and then I want you to circle up to here. And then you come in here to replace him. You can actually make the line a bit thicker now. So you come here, and then you come here. Perfect. Cool. Yeah, so it's just a case of you pin them here so they can't move anywhere. So even with this attack here, they're about to win. Hopefully we'll be able to just pin them. And then you send paratroopers over the border. The only way to combat that is to either A, not let them get air superiority, which in this case, we have overwhelming air superiority, I think. Yeah, we've got 100% air superiority. They've got 0 planes in the air. They do have some planes, though. I don't know why they didn't send any up. Or what you can do is you can just have garrisons or fallback lines. Realistically, in this case, if you were playing as Iraq, you would just tell these guys to hold, deploy a bunch more divisions here, and then break through, because these are these are weak divisions. Like, these are paratroopers, but you know, if any kind of real divisions came along, they're not really going to be able to defend themselves. Even more so because they have no supply. You know, they have a limited window of supply, and then they're out as well. Okay, yes, you can see here we actually lost this battle, but because we've pinned them, they can't move into these tiles. And then even if they did, because we've walked backwards down here, they'd still have another tile and another battle to take. Okay, so these guys have lost a bit of manpower and a bit of stuff, but I think we've probably got this. Okay, so you can see now they've entirely fallen back to this division. One of them's already capitulated. So at this point, it's basically GG. There's nothing they can do. That's the majority of their army. So I'm just going to send our paratroopers down to start taking the rest of their territory. Just take as many victory points. Realistically, the only victory points they have is this one here, Baghdad, and then they have this port down here as well. You come down here. You take that and that. You go straight for Baghdad, and then down here as well. And then you come down here. And the rest of them can just hold up here. So we should now have plenty of supply. Okay, well, 16 to 15, but that's enough. That's fine. So what I actually want to do is, because they have no supply in here as well, we don't need to push into them anymore. So we can actually cancel this attack and just let them push into us a little bit. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Yeah, so even if they break this province here, they're still encircled. They'd have to go for this one. Okay, so it looks like they do have another division down here. I don't know if he's just been deployed or whether he was there the whole time. He might have been garrisoning this port and then they pulled him up. But it is too late at this point. They're just going to get completely overwhelmed. These are paratroopers, so I don't want you to charge into Baghdad because you're not going to be able to take it on your own. You're just going to waste resources. Instead, just focus on encircling the sea. I think that's pretty much it for them. This pocket's about to completely collapse, and their city is encircled. We've got complete control of all of their territory. So I would say, overall, pretty smooth operation. See, they're actually trying to move out. And that's actually a good thing for me at the moment because that's not going to cut us off from any supply. And it's going to be, we can just walk straight into their capital. I'm not sure what the AI thinks. I mean, they're screwed either way, but, they're better off in their capital than in just this random province here with nothing in it. These guys are completely out of supply now. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. And then if this guy's going to move out of Baghdad, we can walk straight in. And I think that's it. I'm not sure if they capitulate on Baghdad alone? I don't think they actually do. I think you need one of the others. Okay, there we go. We've taken this province as well. So literally, it's just a case of getting Baghdad now, and then we'll have capitulated them. We've actually finished our 4 initial factories, so I'm actually going to start building a few civs. Our infrastructure is really low. It's pretty terrible, but it doesn't really matter. We're not going to focus on the navy either, so we'll just build them on the coastal states because they have the most infrastructure. I'll do 4 for now. I feel like they should add a really simple mechanic into the game, because realistically, there's no way if you were encircled like this they wouldn't surrender. Obviously, you know, there's a chance they wouldn't. You know, there's always people that will fight to the end. But if you know your enemy will give you safe passage home, they would surrender. So I feel like there should be a scenario where, you know, you can offer them, say, surrender, and that, I don't know, maybe it exiles them for a month, and then they get to go home, and it strips them of all of their equipment, and you would get, like, you know, like a stability boost for doing it, or maybe some political power or something. I feel like, you know, that would be a good mechanic. You could be like, right, I'll give you your 20 encircled divisions back after a month. So they just disappear off the map because they've been taken prisoner, and then after a month they'd reappear in your own territory, and then the player who let them go would receive some political power or some stability or something like that. I think that would be a good idea. Obviously there were times in World War II where, you know, no prisoners were taken, but there were also times where prisoners, you know, a lot of prisoners were taken. The Germans, in fact, at one point when they were being pushed from both sides, the soldiers would actively run towards the Americans and surrender to them, because they knew they were better off surrendering to the Americans than they were the Russians. Okay, so for some reason he's actually decided to move out of Baghdad. I'm not sure why the AI would think that's a good decision, but they're screwed either way. It's a little bit weird, like, literally the only tile of any significance they have left is their capital, and yet they're only, you know, halfway towards capitulation. You'd think if 90% of your country is gone, you'd be at least, you know, 75% of the way there. Alright, let's just move in. There's no point, you know, making the war any longer. Okay, and there we go. We've capitulated Iraq. We only took something like 5k casualties last time I checked, which is pretty low. And we're just going to take all states. Great. And now that might not seem like a lot for us, but that's actually really good because it's given us a bunch of oil, which means we don't need to worry about fielding our air force in the future, effectively. Especially because there are options as the game goes on to invest in, like, more drills and stuff, so you get more oil out of those deposits. So now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on Saudi Arabia.